And while we play musical chairs with our guests here in the studio, I want to remind you you're watching the Health This Week television program. For more information, give us a call at 800-213-1553 or visit our website at healththisweek.com. And I'm joined in the studio now by Dr. Sheila Foreman. Dr. Sheila Foreman is one of the busiest people I know. She is an attorney. She is also a clinical psychologist. She's a published author. She is a radio and television personality. And Dr. Sheila, I'm so glad to have you here on the program.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
You know, we've been on television together on other programs before, and we've joked about which one of us is busiest. But you certainly have a long list of accomplishments. I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you very much.
You know, Sheila, we're living in probably some of the most challenging economic times that any of us can remember. I mean, all of our grandparents told us how bad things were during the Great Depression, and aren't you going to eat those leftover potatoes on your plate? And we would have loved to have had those in the Depression. And yet you can't pick up a newspaper, log on to the internet, turn on a television without somebody telling you how bad things are getting. Everyone's losing their jobs. Bernie Madoff is ripping off $50 billion. AIG are taking bonuses of $180 million they shouldn't have taken. And I have to think that many of us are teetering on the edge of depression when we hear all these bad news, wondering, you know, am I next?
Absolutely, you're 100% right. There was a recent poll done by the American Psychological Association. 8 out of 10 Americans cite the economy as the #1 stressor in their life right now. That's 80%. That's a huge number. And we are suffering psychologically and emotionally.
Well, I'm sure, because I don't care where you live, someone has lost their home on your street. There's a house for sale on every street that says bank owned. I would venture to say that we all know someone who's lost their job. Many people are fearing that they're going to lose their job. You know, companies, when it's a vicious cycle. When people stop buying in the stores, people stop ordering new supplies, and the new supplies stop ordering, the factory orders stop. It goes all the way back, and it doesn't seem, we haven't seen the light at the end of the tunnel yet. And as hard as the administration is working trying to right the ship, all of this bad news, how do we cope with it?
It really does play on our psyche, and we're seeing an increase in stress and anxiety and depression all over the place. But the key is resiliency. The key is understanding that as bad as this feels, it's temporary. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. We will come out of it. When you don't know that, when you really believe that this is forever, a hopelessness and a helplessness settles in that really does turn into a depression. So building the skill of resiliency, which is really about facing adversity in the most positive way, is the key to getting through this dark period and coming out on the other side.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you're saying, toughen up. It's when you're going to get through it.
I mean, if only it was that easy.
You know, that sounds like something my dad would have said to me when I was 10 years old and came home and said, you know, I didn't get to bat in third in Little League. Toughen up. You're going to be fine. I mean, it's not that simple.
It's not that simple. There might be a little bit of that, but not really. Really, part of it is about accepting what's going on, accepting the circumstances, recognizing what they are, being grateful for what you do have, trying to keep your perspective. You know, don't take the Chicken Little syndrome. The sky is not necessarily falling. The fact that a neighbor lost his or her home doesn't mean that you will. The fear is that you will, and when you live in fear, you increase your stress and anxiety. That leads to poor choices that might actually end up costing you your home. So it's about keeping perspective. It's about remembering that this is a temporary situation, being grateful for what you have in front of you, and get support. And that support can come in the form of a psychologist, the form of a social group, a church or synagogue. We're all in this together. Sure. Let's lean on each other.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because so often when these kinds of economic problems face us, we do feel like we're all alone. We're the ones that are looking at the bills piling up on one side and the checks piling down on the other side. And but then there's another group of people that are so much more innocent, that are really sheltered from what we're facing every day with economic reality, and that's our kids. What do we say to our kids when maybe we have kids who might be used to a bi-weekly trip to the toy store, and all of a sudden that's not happening anymore? Gee, Daddy, why aren't we going to that restaurant every other Friday night like we used to? And can't we rent a movie this weekend? No, that's not a good idea. How do we tell our kids that maybe we're changing our lifestyle slightly to deal with economic uncertainty?
You know, this really is an opportunity for parents to give children a financial education. There are so many kids out there that have a sense of entitlement, that they grow up privileged, they get to go to the movies every week, they get to eat in restaurants, and that's not always the case. So if the family sits down together and starts to talk about the economy, talk about money, not in a fear-based way, but in an education way. This is the reality, this is how you manage money, this is how we save, this is why we save. This can be an opportunity for skill building that will serve the children well when the economy does turn around and we're in a more prosperous time.
So, Sheila, are we the ones 20 years from now, like, be sitting around in rocking chairs saying, hey, you don't remember the recession of 2009?
I will be sitting in a rocking chair saying that.
Is it a simple thing of maybe trying to lessen our exposure to all of the bad news? I mean, we've become news junkies.
Absolutely.
In the 21st century. I mean, the news is available to us 24 hours, 7 days a week, whether it's the internet, TV, or otherwise. Is it a good idea to try to shelter ourselves from that, or is it important that we're kept abreast of what's going on?
I think there's a compromise. I think we need to know what's going on for ourselves personally, but not to get caught up in the panic that seems to be sweeping the country and the nation that's fueled by the media, the newspapers, the magazines, and all of that. Look at your own situation and, to the best of your ability, sort of ignore the doomsday philosophy that's out there.
So maybe simply turning off CNN and maybe turning on Dumb and Dumber or something, just because you need a good laugh.
If you need a good laugh, Dumb and Dumber is a good choice, yeah.
Dr. Sheila Foreman, frequent guest of mine on other programs. Hopefully she'll be a frequent guest on this program, too. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. So happy to be here.
Take care.